Hi everyone, my name is Felicia Bacon. I'm a student at Launch School, and today I'm sitting down with Carolina. She is a student at Launch School, and she's also a co-host for the Women Who Co group that's at Launch School. So today she's going to be talking about her journey to and through Launch School, and I'm really excited, and I hope you guys are excited also to learn more about Carolina. So hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Felicia. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I was a co-host for the Women Who Code Group too a while ago, and yeah, it was really nice to have this chance to sit down with her and learn about the Women Who Code Group now, how it's going, and things like that, and just other stuff. So, I guess you could start with the first question I have is, where are you from, and what were you doing before launch school?
Okay. I'm currently based in New York. Lived here, raised here my whole life. I was doing something completely different than programming. I was a professional ballroom dancer for a little bit over a decade, if I can remember. And that entailed teaching students of all ages, coaching couples, as well as competing with my professional partner and competing with my students as well. And there's a competition in the United States, sometimes two, almost every weekend. It is quite a community. And yeah, that's what I did. So I would teach during the week and I would just go and compete on the weekends. My life was full-time travel. And then when I turned 25, I decided to open up a hair and makeup business to provide that service for ballroom dancers because I saw a need for it. And I also was traveling, and there are a lot of days when we compete. Like, let's say the competition starts on Thursday. I compete on Thursday and Saturday, but what do I do in between? So I also found it as a business opportunity, and there was a need for it. My mom is a professional makeup artist. I had been doing hair at that point for many years. So it just made sense. We opened up our company. It was called Flawless by Carolina. And we traveled the United States. It was one of the best experiences I ever had, having my own small business and seeing it grow, having that support with my mom. It was a great experience getting to spend so much time with her. And then when I turned 30, I realized that, I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. I had changed completely my mindset. I wanted something more. My business grew to the point where could it have grown a little bit more? Yes, but I was looking at something else at that point. I didn't want to continue down that industry. And so I had at that point had only gotten my associate's degree when I was like in my early 20s, just to have something because I was just obsessed with ballroom dancing. I was practicing like 6 hours a day, gymming it 2 hours a day. It was a lot, and teaching. So I wanted just something different. So I decided to get my bachelor's degree when I turned 30. I literally woke up one day and was like, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do. So I looked up majors, and it's funny, I actually looked at computer science degree because I thought at that point, like, what could I do, right? What do we need? We always need a doctor, we need lawyers, and technology is, growing and growing. And so I thought, okay, let me look at computer science. Because I didn't want to go the health route. And I thought about lawyer, but I wasn't sure. Mm, And so I didn't end up getting my bachelor's degree in that because I saw the courses, they really intimidated me. I like saw calculus and all of these other words I've never like no. So then I decided to do something for myself. I come from a creative family. I love to sew. I've been sewing for many years. So I got my bachelor's degree in fashion design. And that was a lot of fun. I got that degree in like 3 semesters because I'm crazy. I
Wow.
like to be busy. And at that time I was still dancing, like I was done professionally dancing, but I was still competing with students and I still had my company. So I was still traveling. So I'm a little bit crazy, but I like to work.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened and I saw my brother is in launch school. He introduced me to launch school.
Oh,
So
wow.
the pandemic happened and I had that summer off. I only had a semester left. and my brother saw how bored I was. There's a pandemic. My life used to be so busy, and he was just like, "Why don't you try this? I know you're career transitioning." I wasn't sure at that point what I was going to do, because as I was finishing up my degree, that summer of the pandemic, I had an internship at Michael Kors, and I had an internship at Queens College, because they also have a fashion department. So that, that kind of got tossed out the window once the pandemic hit. And so my brother was like, "You're either going to love this or it's not for you." And I tried it, and I fell in love with the coursework. Of course, it was very intimidating. I remember being so scared going through Code Academy and looking at procs and lambdas, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm barely picking this up. And luckily my brother was like, "Look, they're just showing you it exists. They will go back and, walk you through everything." So that was nice. I fell in love with it, and I decided it was time to just really take that step to just announce. I had like a huge following. I have on my Facebook, I had my Facebook page for my company. I decided to just announce, like, I'm not gonna, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm changing careers. And it was a little sad to let go, but I was ready. I was definitely ready. I definitely wanted to change. So yeah, that's what I was doing. Sorry for taking so long in answering that.
Oh no, that's so amazing to hear. That's really, really interesting. I've never met a professional ballroom dancer. That's incredible. And you had a business too, so you were really busy doing all these things, these really creative things that you loved. So that's amazing that you had that experience doing something that you loved and you had the courage to say, "Okay, you know what? I do love this, but I don't want to do this anymore. Let me try something else." And why not? If you have the chance, I mean, go for it. So that's awesome. And also too, knowing someone that was going through launch school, I guess made the process easier. I know, like for me, I didn't know anyone in it, and so it was really, really scary. So I kind of just had to jump into it. But I'm glad at least your brother was there to kind of tell you how it was.
I feel
Yeah.
really lucky with that, because when he was looking to get into programming, from what I know, is he actually encountered a lot of those boot camps that everybody encounters, and he didn't really want to go down that route. And so he ended up finding a launch school, thankfully. And I didn't have to do that. It was kind of presented to me, which I'm really grateful for. Yeah, so he's really been a great help, definitely.
I know how you feel about being intimidated. I remember looking through the launch school stuff, or I think the prep course book for Ruby, and being shown and taught on what an array was. And for whatever reason, my mind was just blown. I was like, what is an array? I don't understand this thing that has elements inside. Like my brain couldn't understand that. So that was my very first like exposure to arrays and data structures and things like that. And now looking back, I do all these like crazy things in code. I just thought that was funny. It's very, very intimidating when you don't know what to expect and you're kind of introduced to lots of different things. And it's not like they expect you to know anything or master anything. It's just exposing you to these things that you're eventually going to be looking at. But yeah, the prep course is awesome. What track did you choose? I can't remember when you first started, if there was a Ruby or JavaScript track, but
Yeah, there was. When did I start? I believe I started in June or late June, the 100 course, and then I really started in August, I believe. So this is a discussion I had with my brother. He was already in launch school. He told me I could choose whichever one, and he gave me some pros and cons, but we really didn't know at that point how to gauge it.
mhm.
And I think one thing that really stood out to me that he said is, "You're better off learning two languages, because even though they're two different languages, there are going to be a lot of things that are in common in terms of concepts. And so that'll help you solidify your mental models, and hopefully that will make it easier for you to continue to learn other languages, because once you finish core, and if you decide to do capstone, you are going to be you whenever you land a job, you're not necessarily going to be working with Ruby or JavaScript. You're going to have to be able to do, at the time I didn't know, just in time learning, but
Mhm.
Just-in-time learning becomes a lot easier in terms of learning a language when you already know how languages sort of work and what concepts are, like
Mhm.
variables as pointers or
Yeah.
pass by value, pass by reference. So taking that into account, I also looked at Ruby code and I looked at JavaScript code without knowing anything, and I saw that Ruby was very readable, like and JavaScript isn't. And so I thought, let me try to do something that's more readable first,
Mhm.
and then hopefully when I get to JavaScript, it'll be easier. And when I got to JS210, at first I was like, what are all these semicolons and curly braces? Like what? But
Yeah.
I was patient and I saw that, yeah, a lot of the concepts, they either whether they're different or a little bit different or same,
Mhm.
it's still familiar.
Right.
And that was
Yeah.
comforting. So yeah, that's why I decided to choose it. I guess we went a little bit more of a logical way, given that uh, I didn't have a programming background. I just thought that was the best option for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Having two languages, especially if you're at launch school, you have the experience of saying you can master both languages. So if I could learn a language to master, I would rather do it at launch school. But I think he's right about that because it might not be the same exact concept, but some things are going to be familiar. Some things carry over, like you said, like variables, pointers. I mean, when you get to JavaScript, you don't have to relearn what arrays are or
Right.
variables. Like, you know those things already. So it's kind of like, oh, this is an array. All right, move on to the next thing. You don't have to waste time or spend time learning what that is. But yeah, I had the same experience with Ruby. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I had to do the Ruby track, but it's such a beautiful language and it's simple and it's written in a way that makes it fun and easy for the programmer to learn Ruby. So if you're new to programming, I would suggest probably starting with Ruby track, or if you're not at law school, starting with a language that's, kind of similar, easy to read, that was made for programmers or new programmers. Unless, I mean, you really want to go for JavaScript, then go for it. But yeah, the semicolons and the curlies and everything kind of really bugged me at
Yeah,
first.
when I saw the code, I was like, I actually thanked myself and thanked my brother that, I decided to do the Ruby track. Yeah, it was just different to get, it was something to get used to. I've gotten used to it now, but yeah, another thing that I actually discussed this, I bring up my brother a lot, don't I? I was, 'cause we don't actually study together, by the way. No, I think it's just we go at our own pace, but we do talk a lot about concepts or just our thoughts on the material. And
Mhm.
another thing that I found interesting is how well Launch School does of a job in teaching us what questions to ask and how to
Right.
ask them.
Mhm.
Like for example, when I just started JS210, there's this like small problem about like writing to the console your current age, and then it keeps like you add +10 +10
Oh
in
yeah.
the book. It's actually in the book. And the first time I got that question, like the first one, because later on they tell you to do it with a loop. But as soon as I saw that problem, I was like, there has to be a way to do this with a loop. So I went to the documentation and I looked, and I just encountered the basic for loop, and I was able to do it based on the documentation alone. And I was astounded, not because I'm so great, no, but because Launch School did such a good job in showing me these resources and the ability of how to look for something, what to look
Right.
for in a language I really at that point didn't really know very well. So
Mhm.
I was really surprised by it and be super happy that I'm in launch school. It's those little things.
Yeah, like you feel empowered. You feel like, okay, I don't understand something. I'm not just gonna go say, hey, how do you write a for loop? Like, you feel like I can go out and look for it through a book or like said documentation. Like, you can figure it out yourself most of the time, and you don't have to ask someone else. Probably reserve those questions for maybe more difficult problems. But
Right.
yeah, I think taking the education stuff into your own hands and say, okay, I don't understand something. It's up to me to go and try to learn and figure it out. Cool. So I know you're a co-host for the Women Who Code group. How important it is, do you think, for women and people from underrepresented genders to join a group like this and be a part of a community like this, especially in a software engineering field? like this, where people might have, preconceived ideas or notions about the field itself and the people in it. In what ways do you think it's important to join a group like that?
I think it's very important, and I'll speak about it a little bit on my experience, and then I'll speak about what Leah Davis and I are trying to do. She's my other co-host, and she's fabulous. Um, so for me, when I started, it was really helpful first to see other faces. Second of all, I was really intimidated. So this preconceived notion that it's like a male dominant industry, I don't know how true that is. That being said, because I don't have any programming background and I haven't worked in that field, but there is this preconceived notion that it's very male dominated. I think it's very important. It was important for me to feel, at the time I didn't realize how important, to feel welcome and to feel part of a community where there was a safe space for me to ask questions, whatever they may be, and get that support, I feel is really special. And so every time I would join, when you were co-hosting, I felt so good inside. I felt so welcome. I felt like I was a part of something, because we all know launch school is self-paced and you're most of the time studying on your own unless you build those friendships where you're studying one-on-one or with a group. So for me, in my experience, it really helped me feel part of something. And then I stopped coming for a long time. And I guess that's where I don't know who co-hosted after you, because I know it was still Mandy, but I had dropped off the face of the earth. And the reason is because I was so embarrassed that I was taking so long in 101. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm not up to par like everybody, it took me like about 6 or 8 months, I can't remember, to do 101. I know in February I took my interview for 109. So I felt really, like I'm just, I'm not good enough. I'm still in this course. I was embarrassed. And when I came back, I remember sharing those feelings with Mandy, and she was like, this is a welcoming group. You have nothing to worry about. We don't even remember what course you're in. We just want to be there and provide support for women and non-binary folks. Mandy really was a great inspiration to me. She was, I could almost say, somebody I really looked up to, and I still do. And she really showed me how welcoming Women Who Code is. And so I started coming more, and I started sharing my ideas. And one day Mandy messaged me and said, hey, would you be interested in co-hosting? Because I think you would be a good co-host. And I was petrified, but I said, you know what, let me put myself out there. Yeah. I think I have a lot to say. I think I can share my experiences and hopefully help others, because I received so much help, not just from my brother, but from the launch school community itself. When I needed to take assessments, people would reach out to me after study groups. Lena reached out to me. I always bring her up every time I talk publicly. She reached out to me. She's like, let me give you a mock interview, because I told her I was getting ready for my interview assessment. And she did. And it really helped me out tremendously. And I just wanted to give that back. I wanted to give that positivity and help back. And so when Mandy asked me to do it, I was so excited and nervous. But why do I think it's important? I think it's important because we do provide Leah and I provide a safe space for you to ask anything you want to ask, especially if you're a launch school newcomer. I feel like it is, because it's a safe space, people can be more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I try to, bring up topics of mental health, which is something I had been struggling with through the pandemic. I try to bring up topics of failure, the feeling of failure, how to overcome failure, how to overcome obstacles. And I hope that this is helping the women and non-binary folks in launch school, because we put our heart and soul into it for sure. But I think it's important just to feel safe and to have a place where you can go and meet with your friends. And we are your friends. We're here to support you. So that's why I think it's important. Secondly, there was, I think her name was Agatha. I think she was in 100, but she brought up this topic when I was co-hosting with Mandy about algorithm bias. And that was one of the more interesting sessions I think we had. I mean, the capstone ones are always interesting, but this was a little bit different. And it was about this woman called Joy Bolamini, I believe. Yeah, she created this organization called the Algorithm Justice League. And that organization looks to challenge any bias that exists in tech, basically in decision making when they're making software. And I think that's a really important topic. She came across this problem where she had to put on a white mask for this algorithm to recognize you for facial recognition. But when she had it off, if you're of a darker skin tone, it would not pick up facial recognition. And it's topics like these that I think this is why more women and non-binary folks and people from underrepresented races as well need to, not need to be, but I hope are somehow inclined to get into programming so that we can have a voice and have a say in the software that we're using all over the world. I think that's very important. So when we bring these topics into Women Who Code, I'm not only does it inspire me to think about those things, think about what I want to do with my career in the future, what type of company do I want to work for, but hopefully I can plant a seed in others to say, you matter. We need you to be a programmer. We need you to change the world because we need to have a voice. We need to have the correct facial recognition that is used throughout the world where we recognize any skin color. It's 2022 already, you know? So I want that Women Who Code place to be a place where we discuss these topics. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about that. As you can
No,
tell.
yeah, that's amazing. That's exactly like what I want to show, what you want to show. Like that's how this community is. And that is such an important aspect of launch school. It's not just a school where you learn programming and arrays and loops and all that. It's so much more than that. And it takes people like you to, you know, do something that might be scary and say, hey, I have this platform now, let me do something, you know, to give back to the community. That's how it was for me too. I mean, I did the co-hosting for a little while and I was so scared, but I figured there were so many women and people, men too, everyone who's just been so kind and amazing and helpful for me. So they've helped me a lot. And I was given this chance to do something and give back to the community. And I see that a lot with people where other people have helped them, impacted them in some way, and then they want to turn around and do something to help the community. So it's this constant cycle of giving and giving back type thing. I just think launch school is like the perfect place to do that. We're allowed to grow and evolve and help others. And yeah, and especially when you said you were really intimidated about taking so long in 101. I didn't know that. I think I took the same amount of time and I was full-time. I had started in June and I didn't really finish until next year, March, I think. So almost a year. That really, you know, made me feel bad about myself. I almost quit. And Mandy's ears are probably ringing by now because I always talk about her. She's the one that I remember having a study session with, and she gave me a problem and I couldn't solve it. And this was after I had, you know, gotten not yet my first interview. I completely had a meltdown. I just broke down in front of her. I was just crying. And I just, you know, felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I was going to quit. And she is the person that talked me through it and helped me and encouraged me and told me, you know, you do belong here. There's nothing wrong with you. Like you can do this. You just need more practice and you're going to get better. So like it's just so grateful to her and the Women Who Code group and all this people that helped me. Now, if there's a chance at all, whether it's small or big, for me to help someone else, I'm going to take it because I know what it's like to feel vulnerable, to feel like, you know, maybe I'm not doing so well and to just not feel good and to be a part of a community that just lifts me up when I need it and, you know, carries me when I feel like I can't do it for my own self. Like that is just so essential, I think, to the learning process and going through a school like this. So I just encourage anyone who's thinking about the women co-group, or just wanting a community, wanting a place to make friends and stuff, to join groups like this. It's very important.
I also do the buddy program for launch school, but what that entails is I give them 25 to 45-minute sessions of my time, and I basically show them around, right? So I'll show them, the group sessions, the launch school group sessions, the spot channel, the women who code channel, and I always make sure to tell them, take your time in 101. Take your time, because that is where it's at. That is where you need to spend your time. After this, people would always tell me, my peers would be like, after you're done with this, your progress is actually going to speed up. And I was like, nah, you don't know me, okay? But lo and behold, it did. From February until now, I'm in JS to LS 215. It changes. LS 215. And so, in the same amount of time almost, I was able to do that much more. So I always tell my buddies and anyone that comes to Women Who Code, take your time.
Yep.
Don't feel a certain way about your progress. As long as you do it every day, as long as you put the work in,
right,
you're going to get there. And when you said that, you mentioned to me about, when you broke down and you said, like, I don't think this is for me, thank you for sharing that. That's really touching. I've had a lot of those moments. What got me past it, besides my brother sometimes calming me down because I wanted to like murder my computer screen, my monitor.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I have failed a lot in the past. Like in ballroom dancing, I went to compete. There's been plenty of times I didn't make the final, the semifinal. I got used to failure so much. So I tried to translate all of those previous experiences to my learning experience. When I kind of stepped out of my head a little bit, and I realized it's true. One of my ballroom dance coaches said to me, you are going to get better. You just have to put the work in. Talent, great. You have talent, great. You don't have talent, it doesn't matter. You have to put the work in. A lot of talented people, they don't put the work in. They get off on their talent, but they never achieve what somebody that possibly doesn't have as much talent can do because they put the work in. And so I remember that from my previous career. And I said to myself, I fell in love with ballroom dancing quite late. I started when I was like 16. But I said to myself, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And so I did it. And so I tried to translate that mentality to my learning experience. And every time I feel I can't do this, and I still feel this way, especially now, because this course to me is quite complex. I feel quite rusty in my coding skills. I say to myself, you know what? Calm down. Do it every day, little by little. If you don't feel like coding today, that's okay. Try just a little hour, half an hour, just do one problem, but be consistent and put the work in. And if I can do it, if I've gotten this far and I plan on doing capstone, then anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's an amazing message. I feel the same way. I'm currently right now struggling in object-oriented programming in JavaScript. And just yesterday, actually, I remember trying to study a concept that I'm having a lot of trouble with, and the thought occurred to me, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like that thought came back to me, and I had to really, quickly push that thought away because one, I know it's not helpful, and two, I know that I can do it because I've gotten this far, and I basically knew nothing when I got here. And for me to come this far, that just proves that I can and will eventually learn it. But those thoughts still get to me. And it's not like they magically go away just maybe because you passed a test or you made some kind of milestone. Those thoughts could sometimes still be there. I'm almost done with the core curriculum, but those thoughts of feeling vulnerable, being vulnerable and being scared sometimes are still with me. And I still need the community to help encourage and support me when I need it. And so
definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do too. I do too. I'm sure like you have, I've also created these amazing friendships with people throughout my launch school experience. And these are people that I can honestly tell you I will be friends with till they're sick of me, basically. And I confide in them. I'll name a few people. Let me see. I speak to Rona a lot, Andrew Moore, Alfonso, Christopher Hunt. Those are my study buddies, Christopher Hunt and Alfonso. I used to code a lot with Lucas back in the day. He's also in object-oriented programming now. And I built, sometimes we stop talking, sometimes we continue on and off, but it's always nice to have those people to rely on. And, when I'm not feeling capable, they remind me of how far we've come. And it keeps me going. But backtracking a little bit, that moment of failure, that moment of, oh, I don't think I can do this, those are normal feelings if you look at it from the outside. And so a good thing to do is feel them. Feel it. Take 30 minutes. You want to feel not so good today, then don't feel not so good for 30 minutes. Do it. But then when you're done with that, go, okay, let's go back on track. Right. I think it's healthy. And I feel like it's unhealthy to be like, don't feel failure. Well, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
You're going to. But addressing them, being aware that, okay, this is how I feel right now. Then take a little break and then come back to it, I think is also super helpful just for your mental health.
Yeah. Being okay with feeling these feelings. I mean, you're going to feel them whether you want to or not. That's just how people work. But learning how to pick yourself back up and say, okay, sure, I stumbled, maybe I failed, whatever happened, but I need to keep going. And there's nothing really that's going to stop me except myself type thing. And I think law school is really good for that because you're not in traditional school. No, you're not taking tests and, passing with C's and moving on. It's like launch school really, really expects, they have high standards for you. They really expect to be excellence for everyone. And, you might not be used to that. I was not used to that. I have never seen that. And so when I got my first not yet, I was exposed for the first time to the fact that, I wasn't doing okay in this new field. I did my written test and I aced that. So I was feeling really good. And then I did the interview and I did not do well. And so I was going through like a roller coaster of emotions there. And I with the help of the community, I really had to learn how to deal with the emotions behind it and kind of also put those emotions aside and say, hey, this is the work that I need to get done today. Just do the work. Don't think about how you feel about the work or anything like that. And just focus on what you need to accomplish for that day. Do, if you can, like you said, 30 minutes, do more if you can. And then just do that every single day. And inevitably you will be making progress, whether you know it or not. And most of the time, other people will see that more than you will see it. I have people telling me, hey, you've made it this far. Like, you've progressed so much and improved so much. Like, stop worrying. Like, don't worry as much. But for me, I only see and think about, my flaws and the things that I'm not good at, which is not good. But
we're human.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
That. Yeah. And so, yeah, you just need other people sometimes to tell you to kind of chill out and relax. Like, hey, everything's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'll say it again, I remember reading you posting about live coding in front of others, and you were getting ready for your LS216 assessment. And I was in JS210 then, and I was like, this woman is so brave. I don't know. I mean, I'll do it as a challenge, but I don't think I would like wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna do this. I was like, wow, she's so brave. And it was inspiring. It takes people like you to do those types of things because you're showing an actual example of how you should approach something that you're afraid of. Instead of telling somebody, don't be afraid, everything's going to be okay. You instead were like, I'm going to show you how you shouldn't be afraid. I'm going to live code. I don't know what a problem I'm going to get, but we're going to do it. And I think I'm very impressed by you. And I think it's very brave of you to do that. I'm very inspired by it. And hopefully I will have the courage to do that when I'm ready.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much to me. Yeah. Well, I don't think I would have been able to do it if it weren't for Katerina. And I talked to her before in another video. She is the
Yeah.
reason why I did it. Yeah, because I knew she was preparing for the interview. And when she did that, I thought, wow. And I hopped onto the live code for a little bit and I wasn't able to stay. But I saw how many people were there. I think it was like 30 something people. And I thought, my God, I don't think I could ever do anything like that. Code in front of 30 people, like that's insane to me. She must be feeling so terrified. But she's doing it anyway, just for the sake of improving herself. And I thought, I hate interviewing. I hate talking in front of people, like not like this, but like coding, I guess coding in front of people.
Right.
Like it terrifies me. It's the one thing I would say that I'm not the greatest at launch school. And so I thought the only way for me to grow and the only way for me to get better is to do the very thing that I'm not that good at in front of people, taking those two things, interviewing, talking in front of people, things that I'm not the best at, and doing it at the same time. I was like, that's it. It just clicked in my head. That's it. That's what I have to do. And I remember putting that announcement out there and I was like shaking. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to announce this. I remember like an hour before I actually was going to code, I felt sick to my stomach, just absolutely sick. I felt like I was going to throw up. I was sweating. I was feeling so horrible. And I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I thought about just telling everybody, never mind, I'm not doing this.
I'm sick.
Yeah, I was so scared.
Literally.
Yeah, I came this
Oh,
close.
wow.
But yeah, I said, you know what? I would feel more disappointed in myself if I chickened out versus if I did this and I just couldn't solve the problem. I said, no, I've grown too much. I've improved too much since I first started. I have to see what I'm capable of in the moment. Because you'd be surprised when you take assessments, there are sometimes things that you can write or explain for questions on assessments that afterwards you're like, I can't believe, I wrote such good answers and things like that. So you'd be surprised under pressure what you can do. And I said, yeah, and you probably know that because you're a dancer, that kind of pressure, there's just something in you that comes out. Yeah.
That took time.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's scary, but it's also kind of exciting. And so I said, you know what, I need to experience what this is like. So I did it. And I remember like, it was like an hour later and I said maybe an hour, 40 minutes to an hour max. And it was well over that time. And I still didn't solve the problem. And I remember I looked at everyone who was on the Zoom call and I started tearing up and I was about to cry because I thought, oh no, everyone's going to watch me fail. And no, like Katerina and who else? Hernando was in the group. People were just starting to talk to me and just basically hold my hand and walk me through the problem, what I was struggling with. Not exactly giving me answers, but trying to guide me in the right direction. Eventually I solved the problem and it wasn't as complicated as I made it out to be, but eventually I solved it. And at the end, the code ran and everything was fine. And everyone just started congratulating me and telling me I did such a good job. And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I almost fell flat on my face and freaked out, but everyone was so kind and so helpful and encouraging. I never felt once that anyone was there to make fun of me or to put me down or to feel bad about myself. So I was feeling terrible, but no one ever gave off those feelings or vibes or anything like that. I felt so grateful to the community. And I just kept thanking them over and over again. Thank you so much for helping me. It might not seem like you're helping because you're just sitting there watching the code, but you don't know, like, yeah, it was incredibly helpful. And after that, I felt, if I could do that, I can take this interview. And I did. I remember not
And you
feeling as
passed.
great. Yeah.
I remember when you passed.
I still struggled, but I did it. And I remember going to the interview with the one interviewer and I thought, oh, I coded in front of a bunch of people. I could do this. And I remember feeling a calm and a peace that I have never felt before in other interviews. It was amazing. There was stuff I struggled on in that interview that I wish I could have done better at.
No, no, I think it's very important what you're saying. To bring out a point of what you just said is that peace that you feel. So I remember when I took my 109 interview, I was sweating profusely. I've never remembered. I mean, as a dancer, I used to sweat a lot, but I was doing something. I was just sitting here like drenched. And one thing that helped me out was the day of performance, you gotta just be at peace because you've done all the work. You have
Right.
to trust that you've done the work. If you
Mhm,
if you've done the work, then it'll show,
mhm.
and that mentality is what brings me peace whenever I'm in a situation where I feel like, I don't know if I could do this. And yeah, so what you just said, that moment of peace, I think it's because you maybe internalize this, like, I've done the work. Let's do it, and you
Yeah.
did great.
Thanks.
And that's another thing I love about launch school is like you may not necessarily like formally meet somebody via Zoom or actually ever speak to them, but you know of them because you'll see like the post. I remember when you passed your interview and we hadn't even really officially met, but I was so happy for you. Like I told my brother, Felicia passed her, and my brother's Marcos, you may know him. He's
Oh.
the he's the spot lead now. He does the spot lead with he was doing it with Katarina. And yeah, so I told him and he's like, I know Felicia. Oh man, that's awesome. And you know, people are rooting for you that you don't even know. Even with like I never formally met Katarina, but I know even before my brother joined to be a spot mod, I saw how much she gave to the community, how much she did for the Spot channel. And she may not know it, but I'm rooting for her. I never formally met her, but I think she's amazing. And I think what she's done for the Spot channel has been really great. And yeah, you never know. Like, I
Yeah.
always see these names like Jordan Whistler. He's always helping people, answering their questions, regardless of what course they're in. It's just inspiring. And so I guess
Mhm.
my point is you never know who's reading what you're posting on Slack or who's paying attention, but there are people rooting for you that you probably had never met yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Yeah.
was it, it was awesome. I was like, yay, Felicia.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's really important. I think you get this sort of attitude or feeling like whatever experience that you're going through, whether it was good or bad, you want to turn that into something that could help other people. And I said, I struggled through this interview. I got a conditional pass, still a pass, but to me, it could have been a not yet. And so I want to take the things that were not good about my interview and show people, hey, this is what could happen to you. This is what happened to me. If you go through the same thing, don't worry. These are some ways to kind of maybe help yourself, things that could help you improve. And so you want to turn around and help as many people to feel not like how you're feeling, or at least make life and things easier for them too. And so, yeah, that's what I really like about this community. It's a very giving and generous community. I would have never thought that the software engineering community would be like this. I thought people were just very solitary, they just study, do things on their own, build projects. But I never thought that it was such a tight knit, very strong community that's always helping each other. I think it's like, like a family. To me, that's even higher on the list of things that I love about launch school. Besides the actual content material, it's the family community that you build.
Yeah, I think this community really appreciates one another. And I've had the pleasure of, it is really a pleasure to do the Putty program for me and to co-host Women Who Code. And it really stems, I also think it stems from Chris Lee, he's just really kind. I
Mhm.
remember sending him an email recap of one of the meetings, and he basically said, wow, you guys are so great. I wish I could buy you all a cup of coffee for the morning.
Aw.
It's just those acts of kindness, those words, they really get to us, I think, and they want, it makes us want to even give more. I feel like we all sort of at least in my experience, I felt appreciated for whatever I've done. Even though I wasn't looking to be appreciated, sometimes I'll just lend a hand because I'm free. I'm always at
Mhm.
my computer and I'll help. And then to receive some feedback that is appreciative, like, I don't want anything else. That's actually, those words are more than enough for me. I think that is very, it makes me happy and it makes me want to double what I'm giving.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's why this community is so great.
yeah. You never know how your words or actions can have an impact on someone, whether it's just, hey, let me lead this study session. You never know how much it can impact somebody who's struggling or otherwise. And so, yeah, I encourage you to get out there, put yourself out there, as scary as it is, talk to people, learn what other people are going through, and share what you can. You'll find people are really going to appreciate you for that.
I think this environment also provides a place for you to grow to
Mhm.
the fullest potential. Like, even speaking to you now, I'm learning so much. I can see that you take initiative to do things that scare you. That's great, but that's probably also because you feel safe. You feel welcome, and
Yeah,
people want to work with you. They check on you. So it's like it all kind of blends in into this beautiful community where
yeah,
everyone's appreciative, but it also inspires you to do what scares you the most. And I think
yeah,
that is a great way to grow.
I think
Um,
so.
and I'm really happy that you're doing things that scare you. I believe it or not, I can perform in front of anybody. I'm a dancer, so we would change anywhere. I could change in front of anybody. But if you asked me to talk, I'm petrified. Like, I was petrified. And so throughout my launch school journey so far, I've just gotten more comfortable with it. I try to just put my best foot forward, and yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but speaking, I mean, this setting is more casual, and I feel like you're a nice person to talk to. But imagine me talking in front of 50 people, I would be quite nervous.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I might take you up on that coding in front of others thing.
Yeah, and I think you'd be great. It's only going to help you. And that's also the thing. That's why I did it. I feel like that's why Katarina did it, because we both know no one is going to make us feel bad. No one is going to make fun of us or insult us. That we've never experienced that. And so it's like, what's the worst that can happen? You mess up, you don't solve the problem, and it's like, oh well, if you don't, no one's going to make you feel any bad for it, and you're only going to be shown ways to get better. And so
Exactly.
that's the amazing thing about it. So don't ever feel like that will happen to you, because it just, I will say it won't happen to you. People here will not ever do something like that to you, so they'll always only encourage you.
Yeah. Speaking of those things, I just thought of another reason why I love doing Women Who Code so much. Just as much as when you're done with core capstone, you're job searching, right? Just as much as you're job searching. I think something I've been thinking about is finding the right environment for you,
Mhm.
and what questions can we ask a recruiter or somebody that is a hiring manager that will allow us to understand the kind of environment that this job has, right?
Mhm.
And being that forward to ask, like, do you provide support for this and this? Am I going to feel comfortable? I think those are important questions to ask. How to ask them, I don't know. And I'm looking into doing that for Women Who Code as well. Um, because I think just as much as you're searching for a job, you should search for the right environment for you as well.
Right.
If
Mhm.
possible, an environment that is welcoming, that is inclusive, that is open for growth. And so, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because we were talking about how great the launch school community is. And I thought about, yeah, that's something I want to ingrain in it. And I want to learn how we ask hiring managers, for example, about the work environment in
Mhm.
their company. And I don't even know myself particularly how to ask that.
Okay, so switching gears a little bit, what's the most challenging part for you going through launch school?
I think launch school is great. I think the challenges are more personal than anything. Of course, there are some challenging courses, but overall, all the courses have been quite fair. And if there is any questions, launch school staff is great at answering, peers are great at answering on Slack. So
Mhm.
in terms of like launch school itself and the coursework, I think it's phenomenal. I think the challenges for me personally come with this pressure of having to finish a course by a certain amount of time, having to take an assessment or finishing a lesson, or it's just this pressure because it's self-paced. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to get a lot done. And I have, like I mentioned earlier, I have been struggling a lot with my mental health throughout the pandemic. It's important for me to take a backtrack and just address those issues. And I've currently have. I'm waiting to go on, my first, I don't know, therapy session, I guess. I've been to therapy before, but I just feel like with the pandemic going on, my past experiences, I love to be busy. I love to sleep 5 hours a day. Like I like to be that busy and I'm not. And I don't have like I can't just go to the gym these days. It's a little dangerous to go out for a run in New York City, at 6 a.m.
Mhm.
So I feel like the challenging thing throughout my law school experience is kind of being patient with myself and being kind to myself and not being so you must finish this. And I think one thing I was talking with Mandy recently about is I started feeling a certain type of pressure once I got to front end. So when I got to JS 210, because there in 185, they show you like the cohorts when they are, what dates should you be ready by to join this specific one. And so what we're now in January, and I was thinking, okay, I think I could do the May one, but I need to be finished by mid-March. And I
Mhm.
was thinking it the wrong way. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to push as hard as I can and I'm going to make that one. And I understand some people, I'm very lucky. I do have the time. I can take my time. I don't have to rush. I don't have any other stress outside where I would need to just, bite the bullet and just do it. So I said to myself, if I have the time, why am I pressuring myself? If anything, I should be taking more time to grasp this material because it was what I'm learning right now is very important. Like,
Mhm.
especially when I get to object-oriented programming. And the next course, what's the next course? JS 230, I believe.
2:30, I think Dom and something.
Yeah. So, and I think it's asynchronous.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
asynchronous
We're
JavaScript and
horrible
Dom.
students. We don't know.
Oops.
Anyway, I heard, like Mandy said, like she does encounter that now at her current job, like the stuff precisely that what you would work on in 230. And so I
Mm,
said to myself, I'm thinking about this the wrong way. I'm giving myself a deadline for no reason if I don't need one, right? So
mm,
I should just buckle down, not be so impatient, and take my time. This is not a race. It's about being more than anything, again, going back to the mastery level of learning things, taking the time now to approach it in a mastery learning based way so that when you get to capstone, you're ready for that just in time learning.
right. Yeah.
That's how I switched gears to that. So I think, yeah, to answer your question, sorry it was so long.
Oh, no, no, you're good. I love hearing it also. Yeah.
I think the most challenging thing is just being patient and not rushing and being kind and taking time to be human. Like
Yeah.
we're not machines. We can't sit down 16 hours a day. I think that's been the most challenging part, just because I strive. I really want, to get there. I want to really learn everything, but it's like, you can't learn things in one day. And you also shouldn't rush it. I don't want to, get into a situation where I rushed a course and now I'm encountering something that I should know, and I'm reading code from a peer that I should know, and I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think that's worse than
Mhm.
taking too long. Okay,
Yeah.
you took a little too long. if you have the time, it's okay.
Totally agree, because I have those same exact feelings constantly. It seems like on a daily basis, me struggling. I had a talk yesterday about, capstone. I'm trying to make the May cohort, and just
Me
seeing,
too.
yeah, it just,
But
it's, who knows, right? It's like every time I struggle with a concept in 225, that fear of not making the deadline comes up, and I think, oh no, I'm having trouble. I I'm gonna need more time, but the deadline is not going to wait for me. It's still there. And so it makes studying stressful. It's not fun anymore. I'm studying and trying to rush to make this deadline. And I mean, sure, yes, I want to go to capstone and eventually get a career, but I have to remember that the most important thing is mastering the material in front of me, because everything ahead of us is going to build on top of what we learn now.
exactly.
So yeah, so if we don't learn it now, we're not going to learn the things in the future as well as we should, because we're missing some things. And so I have to remind myself of that constantly. And I just realized yesterday, hey, most likely I'm not going to make the May cohort. And I had to learn that that's fine. I had to accept it and just be okay with it, because, what am I going to do? Torture myself, rush through the material? And in my attempt to hurry up, I mess up, and what if I don't pass the assessment? In my attempt to rush and get to that deadline, I'm going to end up messing that up, and I will have to push back the time anyway. So it's like, it doesn't even make sense to try to do something like that.
It's a daily struggle too. And
Yeah.
I want to voice this out because I feel like it's happening more now, toward now that we're on the front end,
Mm-hmm.
where you'll feel that pressure a little bit more,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
at least in my experience. And I remember in December, I was like, I was just eating up JS 210. Like I loved it. I love that course. And I was just like, but I had a lot of things going on in my life, like in just mental health wise. Also, my family dog for 17 years now. And she's quite, she's sick. She's about to, these are her last few months, days, maybe weeks, maybe one more year at best. But at the time, I didn't see it coming. So in December, she got really sick all of a sudden, and we had to literally nurse her. And I said to myself, I'm about to take this assessment, but mentally, I'm not there yet. So I gave myself a little extra time because I was like rushing to get to the May one. I was rushing to finish my mid-March.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took the assessment. Could I have gotten, I got an A. Could I have gotten an A plus if I waited another month? Probably. But the reason I decided to take it is because I felt like I really mastered the material. I felt ready. I felt good about it. And I really only messed up in really simple things, which made me kind of happy, because at least it showed that, okay, it was an oversight rather than I didn't know what was going on here. But then I said to myself, you know what, I need to stop pressuring myself to make it by mid-March. I just
Yeah.
need to live my life healthily. Like
Yeah.
I need to be healthy. So I took 2 weeks off after that. I like celebrated my holidays. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take 2 weeks off. I'm not gonna code. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna sit down, take some time for myself, see if I like how things are going. Maybe I want to change habits. Maybe I want to pick up a hobby. Maybe I want, because I'm full time. And so when January came, which was like a few days ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready. And if I make it by mid-March, that's great. And the reason I'm aiming for it is to light a fire in my tuchus. But if not, then at least I'm progressing at a good speed that will make me I will still be able to do at least the September one,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that's okay, but that pressure of like I must do the May one, oh gosh, that killed me, honestly.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I'm glad you're sharing that with me, because I was on the same boat as you, and now I still struggle, but at the same time I'm like, it's not worth my mental health. It's not worth me skipping important concepts or important lessons or working on a small problem for an hour and a half. If that's what I have to do and I get to the September one, then that's what I'm going to do, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing that you accepted that. Yeah, I've been struggling with that more and more and more. And like you said, getting to the front end, that's when becomes more real because you're like, okay, now I'm in the second half. I'm only a few courses away from finishing. That's when, they need to start figuring out, okay, which cohort are you going to go to and things like that. And it's like, it's real. And you think, okay, there is a stopping point. Law school doesn't last forever. And so, yeah, the past few days, it's just been looming on me. It seems like, yeah, it's like December was one thing. So you're like, oh, next year sometime I'll be in capstone. But as soon as we hit January, we're like, oh, it's only like 2 months away. It's much closer than I thought it was. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to make it. And so, you have to learn how to adjust your goals and be very realistic in a school like this, where your education is totally up to you. You decide, basically when and how you do things. So you have to be willing and ready to adjust when needed and not feel bad about it.
Again, if you have the time, if you can take the time to do this full time, then do the same thing we did in back end. Take your time with each course, I would say,
Yep.
because it's very important to master this in order to be able to do capstone. I think to feel more than anything, I think, and I've heard from so many people like capstone is one of the hardest things, right, that somebody has done. I think the most important thing for me thinking about that, hearing other people's experiences, is I need to feel at peace with myself.
Right.
Because capstone in and of itself is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. Maybe I won't sleep too much. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't get the best team. Maybe I will. I don't know. But what I do know is I want to feel like I put the work in and I'm ready. As long as I can count on myself, I can be a productive team member. If I'm lost and I don't know what you're talking about, I don't know how productive I can be. And so what is the point of rushing it,
Yeah, there is none. And that is a good point. You don't think about that. Hey, I'm going to go out to the workforce. Most likely you're not going to be working alone. Most likely you'll be working with a team. So that means you're going to have to come in knowing your stuff, knowing the things that they expect you to know, or at least be willing to learn on the job what you need to know. And you will be working on a team trying to build something, most likely, I'm not sure. But those teammates are going to be counting on you to pull your weight. And it's not going to look good when you're not able to, when you just don't know. And each course is critical for what we're going to be doing at capstone. And even if you don't do capstone, whatever you do out in the workforce, taking the time now to learn it, because this education phase won't last that long compared to when you're working. And if you have the chance to learn it at launch school to master it, I would do it. I mean, I don't think I could learn. Actually, I know for sure I couldn't learn JavaScript or Ruby or networking foundations or databases as well as I could outside of launch school. It's all here. So while I have the chance,
I agree with you on that. I don't think either. And again, it's okay if you don't know something, right? And that's the nice thing about launch school. I feel very confident when I say they prepare you to be able to ask the right question, a question where it goes, oh, this person may not know this, but they understand what's going on. They understand how to, they kind of get it, but they don't really know yet. Let's figure it out. But when you don't, like, I'm petrified. I don't want to be in that position. But like you said, take your time, because this isn't like you go on a dictionary and you memorize a definition, you use it 3 times and you're pretty solid about it, right?
Yeah.
This is a skill. This is a skill that you need to practice. You need time. You need to do it every day, or at least every other day maybe, or you need to put time into this, because it's a skill that only comes with putting work into it. And so this is why I say these things, and I need to remember that I've said these things so that when I'm freaking out, I don't freak out so much.
Yeah.
But it's so comforting to talk to you, and I think in that regard we're in the same headspace.
I think
it's so refreshing to hear somebody have the same struggles, and then hearing from you that you just decided it is what it is. That's great. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if I'm struggling with something, I'm so happy to be able to talk about it and maybe help someone else, because it does take a toll on your mental health. Mental health is something that's not really talked about. And so, yeah, for the sake of your mental health, for the sake of your sanity and peace, you have to make these decisions that maybe you don't want to make, but you have to make. And in either situation, whether it's the Mako or not, they're both paths are great paths. It's not like one is maybe better than the other. They're both really good for whatever it is. So just the difference is when it's going to happen. So it's not like, oh, if I don't make the Mako or oh, it's the end of the world, something bad's happening. Totally not the case at all. So
I'm glad we talked about this because I feel like doing the buddy program and Women Who Code, I do encounter a lot of new people in launch school, and it's amazing. I love supporting, all these people coming into launch school, but at the same time, I'm trying to address the peers I'm currently working with. Like, are you feeling the pressure too, or is it just me?
yeah.
So it's nice to have that chat.
Yeah, we're all going through it. All right, so my next question is, what do you hope to do after you're finished the core curriculum? I know you talked about wanting to do capstone. Have you really thought about, where you want to work or what you want to do in the software engineering field?
To be honest with you, I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like going through capstone will definitely expose me to perhaps web frameworks or just resources that people use in the in the industry, which I'm not aware of right now.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I still have to finish learning JavaScript all that well, but I have a vague idea. I definitely want to do capstone. We've discussed that. I don't mind whether my job is remote or in New York, honestly. I would actually prefer remote at this point.
Mhm.
And I think the first few years into my career, I want to, like, I have a vague outline of not specifically where I want to work, but what I want to accomplish. So the first few years, I want to learn. What I love about programming and software engineering is you never stop learning. You
Right.
you can always grow and then outgrow your company and maybe even start your own startup, right? So that is super exciting to me. So I think the first 5 years I will be that go-getter that I'm going to try to learn and try to do my best and grow within the company that I choose. Maybe I'll switch off in 2 3 years. I don't know what's to come. And it's not like I'm saying I'm going to stop learning after 5 years. No, what I'm saying is my focus will be just trying to suck it all in as I can. But I think in the future, once I'm at a place financially where I feel comfortable,
Mhm.
I definitely want to give back. Something that Chris Lee mentioned, he did a Q&A for the Spot channel a month ago, I believe. Chris Lee talked about, somebody asked him where are you going to take launch school? And I don't know verbatim what he said, but he did discuss that he wanted to provide programming to low income communities. And I thought that, this is something that has crossed my mind. I've thought about, wow, launch school is so great. If we gave this kind of course to kids that are in high school, that are in junior high school, that would be phenomenal, especially women and non-binary folks. Just expose them to this, or people of different races that don't have that accessibility to
Mhm.
learn programming. And so I think something that I definitely want to do in the long run is to be able to do something like that, to find, or maybe Chris by then will already be doing that, and
Mhm.
to find a way how I can support something like that, because I feel like I've always done in my life what I fell in love with dancing. I did that. But I almost wish that I found launch school when I was younger.
Me
I
too.
almost wish I wasn't as intimidated by math and science when I was younger, but I was. And I'm naturally creative, so I went that route. But I think I can combine the two definitely in the future, but I definitely want to provide this, how wonderful launch school is, and just to provide that for, children, especially in low income households. I think I really resonated when he said that. So yeah, I plan to work my tukis off. I keep saying that word because I can't say another word. I plan on working it off until, I'm financially stable. And then once I feel great, however long that may be, not only will I continue learning, but I definitely want to help out my community, especially where I grew up in Queens and Jackson Heights. I see a lot of people struggling, especially because of the pandemic. There's a lot of immigrants in my neighborhood that, if their children were exposed, or even if they were exposed to education like this, they would flourish. Think about us. I mean, if you could tell me what you did before launch school, because I actually don't know.
Yeah, I was in architecture school, so I studied to be an architect. I got my associates, and I transferred to university, did a few semesters, and I had to stop going. I dropped out because the bill came in the mail, to pay for the semester. It was like over $5,000, and I did not have it, even with financial aid, and it was too late to ask for help. And I had to make the decision to drop out. And that was like, I was devastated because to me, education, I was always in school. I had never not been in school. To me, education was the only way to get out of my situation and to have a better life. And to suddenly not have that terrified me. I was so scared. I felt, for the first time in my life, untethered, I guess I would say. I felt like I was just floating around with nothing to do, nothing going for me. And I knew I had to go back to school for something. And I decided coding was a possible way to go because I was coding on my phone. Like, they had coding apps and it was free and fun.
Cool.
And yeah, it was accessible. Learning to code online for free, whether it's free Code Camp, Codecademy, whatever it is, it's accessible, it's free. All you need is really just Wi-Fi to do it. And you can get a developer job. Yeah, I'm so happy you're talking about that because I never really thought about that either. But just showing people, hey, there's education all around you. There's knowledge to be had. You can learn all kinds of things just on going online. And especially for coding, there's a million resources out there and books and stuff and, coding boot camps and things like that. Yeah, coding boot camps are probably expensive, but there are other routes too that are affordable and accessible, but people just don't know. I didn't know. Yeah, that would be amazing to help people realize that and not feel like they have to be stuck in their situation like I did. So, I mean, I thank God, I found launch school when I did, but I wish I had found it earlier. I would have done it.
Me too. And I'm not knocking what I did. I credit a lot of my discipline and who I am today because of the experiences I had in the ballroom industry. So I'm not knocking it at all. It was maybe one of the best experiences of my life. But if I could have been introduced to coding younger, I don't know how it would have turned out. And even my point to asking you what you did before launch school, like, we all come from a different background. We all have our cultures and we all have our point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine, with knowledge and education, what you can do with your own experience,
Mm-hmm.
what you can provide for other people. And you're not only going to be successful yourself, you're going to be helping other people as well to be as successful or even more than you are. And I just think when you're in that mindset, I'm not, and I don't want to get into religion. I'm not too much of a religious person, but I do think whatever you give, you're going to get back. Whatever energy you're giving, you're going to get it back tenfold. And so if I'm getting this help from people, I want to scream it. I want to help you. And I've seen it come back to me in good ways as well. And so it kind of all feeds the other, and it's beautiful. And that's what, to answer your question, that's precisely in the long term what I would like to do. I would love to provide this sort of education or have this kind of, or fund some kind of accessibility for this, because I think it's very important to have more women, more non-binary folks, more people that are of different races. I think it's very important.
Mhm.
And I hope that that community in this industry grows larger and larger.
Mhm.
And it is, I think, a little bit. I mean, we've seen a lot of more women join law school recently. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. I feel like, and then we have people from, you know, they may live in the States or not, and they're from all different parts of the world, even if they live in the States. I just think that's so inspiring. So yeah, I mean, I don't know precisely what, you know, what company I want to work for. I know I love to learn, and I don't think I will ever stop learning. And I know that once I'm grounded and I'm financially stable and happy with my career, or at least feel grounded with my career, I plan on using whatever tools I have to help others. I think that's very important to me. And I'm really happy Chris shared that, because I had been thinking about that, and I'm sure he's been thinking about it way longer than I have. But to hear him sharing it was, it really touched me, and it made me really solidify it. I was like, you know what? I agree. This is something that needs to get done. And if I can do it in 10 years, in 5 and 6, then I will.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that's so inspiring. Now it's making me think about how I can do the same thing, how I could help and give back
Exactly.
to the community. Yeah, and I love the software engineering field for that reason, because of how accessible it is, how affordable it could be, and it's constantly all the barriers that I thought existed, for me at least in my experience, do not exist. And that notion of having to be good at math and science, I was terrible at math in school. And I mean, I was trying to be an architect, but I don't remember doing math like that until I got to construction, you know, like calculating loads and stuff, breaking down those barriers that don't actually exist, but for whatever reason they're there. I mean, you don't need to know math. And so, I mean, I guess basic math, like how to add and whatnot, but nothing like calculus or geometry and anything like that. And you don't even really have to be a totally, I don't want to say logical person, you know, there's like left and right brain type thing, creative sides. Like it doesn't matter. You can learn to be that way. You can learn to be a better problem solver and learn to think logically. You don't have to come in being that way, because I certainly am not like that. And I do struggle with it, but it's not a skill that's unattainable and impossible to learn. And I feel like people need to know that. They need to hear that. And I tell people that sometimes, hey, they ask me what I'm doing when I'm studying. I tell them I'm trying to be an engineer. And the first thing they ask is, do you have to be good at math? And I think, why do people think that?
I thought the
What?
same thing, by the way. I was like, I'm not good at math. I don't think I
Yeah,
can. I'm horrible at math.
yeah. Why do
I
you
kind of
think
like
that?
math now, but
Yep.
there's something I want to pick your brain before we finish this awesome time that I'm having.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Because I guess, I mean, we're further. We're both kind of. I mean, you're in object oriented programming, but we're both in front end now. Have you noticed that your way of thinking about things has changed from before you started programming till now,
Oh,
in terms of like how you would approach a life problem, for example, like how you would think about like a problem you're having in real life? Like, has your
yeah.
approach changed?
I feel like, yes, for me, it's almost a night and day difference. And I think it has a lot to do with confidence and having struggles and actually overcoming them, being on both sides. It, yeah, I feel like it's a night and day difference for me when I have a problem in real life, whatever it is. I have the confidence now to say, whatever I'm going through and dealing with, it will pass. I will get to the other side. And no matter what it is, everything will be fine. And I didn't really have that confidence when I first started. I was a shy, still am kind of a shy person, very introverted. And I kind of just grew up, for whatever reason, not having that much confidence in myself. So I always struggled with comparing myself to other people, feeling like I wasn't as good as everyone else for whatever it is. and just feeling kind of less. So I always had confidence issues. I always had, I forgot the word, not confidence, but another one. Just, I didn't have pride in myself or who I was. And so that carried with me when I got to launch school, feeling like, oh, I decided to come into this field with people who are trying to be engineers. Who am I to think that I could be an engineer? I will never be a good one. I don't know anything, just feeling very negative, not having any good feelings about anything. And so that impacted me so much when I failed my first interview. I thought I was a complete failure. I had this pressure to finish law school at a certain time, and just I didn't know how to deal with things. I didn't know how to handle failure. I didn't know how to take criticism, things like that. Any sort of problem that I had, I would just have a meltdown over. I don't know why. And so, yeah, with the launch school community, having encouragement, having a strong support system, and just going through the process of launch school every day, every single month, learning and growing, being able to experience what it's like to be successful in something, like something as simple as taking an assessment. For me, that is a huge thing, because to have launch school expect excellence from you, it's a lot. I've never been expected to be excellent at something, just pass the test, whatever that grade is, and you can move on. So I never thought that I could be good at something or excellent at something, or have that feeling of, oh, I have mastered something. I never thought I could do that or be that. As sad as it sounds, like I just didn't have that confidence. And so experiencing passing my assessments, experiencing doing really well and also not doing well, and coming up, on the other side, just has shown me I can do things that I think that I can't do. I can learn things that I think that I can't learn. Despite what other people think of me, despite of what I think of myself, those thoughts and feelings, they're not true, and I've proven to myself that I could do this. And any problem that comes my way, I take it and I think, okay, this is happening. This is just something I have to deal with and work through, try to understand all sides of it as much as possible, and make a sound, logical decision about it, whatever it is. And it'll resolve itself. Yeah, I just feel like I've grown so much going through law school, not just learning the program, but more about myself. I feel like I've grown more as a person in these 2.5 years that I've been at launch school than, I don't want to cry, but before. And it's really given me a chance to learn about myself and learn how to be kind to myself. I don't even know if
No,
I've answered the question.
you are. I think those are all great points you're making. I don't know what it could be, but I felt the same. I felt, even though I had this, ballroom dancing was very glamorous, everything. I always felt like I had, and it's about me. I'm not talking down on the industry itself, but I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I always felt like I wasn't skinny enough, I had to be an athlete. I had to go to the gym. I had to practice X amount of hours. I just felt like it was just never enough, and
Mhm.
it shot my confidence. It really did. And I have to agree with you, throughout my launch school, through this time, my confidence, if I tell you that I used to be an introverted person as well, I don't know if you will believe me. I did not like speaking to someone that I don't know because I was scared. I had
Yeah,
social anxiety,
yeah,
And
me
it's
too.
funny because I was performing in front of people, but that's way different than actually speaking to people. Like I just didn't know how to do small talk a little bit, and I
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, I met you once, should I say hello? Should I not say hello? I'm gonna say hello. You know what? I'm not gonna say hello. Forget it. And then I would just go, and then they would be like, she doesn't have any, oh, like, So that's how anxious I was.
Yeah.
And I grew up. Like, I can see now that I have confidence. Even taking my JS to 10 assessment, I was like, no, I studied this. I know this. I'm gonna do it. And it is what it is. And I took it, and I passed, but it's given me that confidence to go, I can be good at something, and
Right.
I am enough. I am enough because I'm putting the work in and these are my results. We've gotten this far. We're good enough, you know? And I like that. I like that you brought that up. That's and I'm glad because I mean, we literally just met today in terms of speaking, but I'm in awe of you. You are so
Oh,
strong. You're such a strong and brave woman. And even though you didn't know it when you started launch school, maybe you felt like their confidence wasn't there. You want to grow. You tried something new. You didn't just say, "Oh," you didn't put yourself down and say, "Oh, I can't, finish my semester. I didn't get my degree." No, you picked yourself back up and you were like, I'm gonna learn something no matter what. I'm gonna go out there and do it. And you did it. And you passed the LS 216 assessment.
yes, you
So
did it.
jealous. But I'm saying, like, it's really nice to talk, to chat with you and get to know you. And it's because the way people view you is one thing, but when you tell me these things, I'm just in awe because even though you didn't have the confidence, this is where you are. Like that's amazing and that's inspiring. So
Thank
thank you for
you.
sharing that.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
so much for
you.
sharing that.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for sharing your story too. Yeah, it's insane because you would never ever know what someone is going through because they could project something and they're trying their hardest to look a certain way. And you never know how they're feeling inside. You never know if they're having, a meltdown, if they're close to breaking down, things like that. That's happened to me. Um, and so they're trying hard to put it together and show this side of them that is confident because that's how you want to look in public in front of other people. And so daily struggles, people are struggling with so many different things on the daily, and it's so awesome to see people get through launch school. I love when I see like people I'm studying with, the little number next to their name with the course number, to see the next number for the course. Like I'm always like celebrating that, and I'm so excited for them because I know the work that it takes to get there. I know the struggles, internally, externally, whatever's going on. Like this person was going through so much in their life, good or bad. And I know how long it takes to get through these courses and learn these things. And they made it. And they're in the next course. Like that's amazing. Law school, I think, helps you grow in more ways than one, in many ways that you don't think. And yeah, it's not all about programming. And I didn't know that when I came in. I'm pretty sure you didn't either. I
No.
just, yeah, I just thought I was going to come in, learn Ruby and JavaScript and go work somewhere. So it's
Yeah.
has been just an amazing experience, much more than what I thought it was going to be. Uh, and I know that's true for a lot of people. So it's so nice to do something like this and talk to you and hear your perspective on it all. So thank you for doing this today with me.
Of course, of course, it's a pleasure. It really is. And the last thing I want to add is I found, and maybe you might resonate with this, I found even how I tackle emotional problems. Sometimes,
Yeah. Mhm.
I get in a place where I get emotional about something, and back in the day, I would just say what I had to say, and you had to hear it. I mean, I'm talking about friends wise, family wise. And now I don't do that. Now I go, okay, I'm feeling this way right now. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to think about why I'm feeling like this and why am I so upset, really? And then I'll think about it logically. Oh, this is why I'm upset. And then I can go and address it versus before. And I honestly have to say, it sounds silly, but after launch school, that's how my behavior has changed. Like I now look at things a little bit more logically, and I'm a very emotional person, but
Me too.
I take the time to absorb what's going on now and think more
Mhm.
logical. Like, okay, let's get down to the bottom of it and fix it, rather than getting emotional, creating more problems, adding more injury. That's one thing I think that I don't think I've shared or discussed that I think is very valuable to me that I've picked up throughout my progress in law school. Just even day to day life and how I handle it and how I think now and how I approach certain situations are have changed. And I honestly think it's because of law school.
Yeah, I totally agree. What is the word? Emotional maturity. I feel like emotionally, I am in a much better place now than I was 2 years ago. I was a mess emotionally. I just seemed like my life was chaos, or at least in my head, that's what it looked like to me. And now, only 2.5 years later, it's not that much time. Now I'm like, oh, this is what's going on. I feel like things are so much more clear now than they ever were. I can sit down and think through a situation like I couldn't have before. It's just like when you're given a problem to solve. You're given the problem and you have to think through it. Think of all the different ways about of how to figure out solving it before you actually solve it. And you just have to take that time. And so law school is really good because the whole mastery-based learning thing is meant to give you time to master these concepts, but it also gives you a chance to learn about yourself and grow as a person, because it's not a type of school that most likely you're used to, self-paced and whatnot. Most people never go through a school like that. So you have to learn how to study, how to get through it. So that means taking your education and learning into your own hands and figuring out, how do I study for a school like this? And so you're inevitably going to change things about yourself, your habits, how you think, how you take criticism, how you learn, things like that. All lots of different aspects of your life are going to change without you even knowing that it's going to change. There's so much that's changed for the better in my life, I think. And I just this chat that we're having, I could not have done this before law school. I wouldn't have had the confidence. I wouldn't have had, the idea thinking that what we're doing is going to help people, things like that. A dramatic difference. And so, yeah, just I'm really grateful to law school for changing it's been life changing. That's the word that I have.
I think
It's
this
life
is
changing.
key. I think this is the key, and this is exactly why what you're doing and you're posting this on YouTube. I think this is amazing what you're doing, because you're exposing, you're not just showing what law school is, you're showing how it's changed people's lives. And I'm sure Chris Lee knows how many lives he's changed, but I hope he does. I mean, he has. He's changed my life tremendously, and I haven't even finished core,
Yeah.
and so this is just all around a great community, a great school. I've learned so much about myself. I've grown so much as a person.
Mhm.
And even when you ask me a question like, what do your last question was like, what do you, where do you see yourself working? Even though I don't know the answer to that question, I'm confident enough to tell you where I'm headed. And that
Exactly.
confidence comes from my experience in launch school. So
Mhm.
everything that you're saying is really at the core of what I want people to know about launch school, I think. And
Right.
thank you for doing
Mhm.
this. I think this is amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you too for joining. I love hearing people's stories, and I wanted to learn more about you, especially for the Women Who Code group, because I've been away from the group for a while, so I kind of want to know, like, hey, what's going on with, what are you doing, type thing. But yeah, this is the human side of software engineering, and that's the side that no one really thinks about. So, the very real human aspect of software engineering and launch school too. And so this is what I want people to see, because I felt like it was kind of missing, and what I didn't
Yeah.
see when I first joined. And I thought launch school, I thought it was a scam. I didn't think it was real. And I was like, well, yeah, I just have to do and see. So for people that are joining, thinking about joining, maybe have already joined type thing, I want you to see, this is what is available to you. This is what is here. If you want it, you can be a part of this too. You don't have to go through it alone. You don't have to be afraid to try something new. And so yeah, there's you, there's me, there's people all around, not just us two, but hundreds of
The
people.
beauty
Yeah.
beauty about it is it's any age, any gender, any race. It doesn't matter. As long as
Mhm.
you want to learn, then you're more than welcome.
Yes.
As long as you want to, I mean, you read like the mastery based learning and that interests you and you want, this is something you want, then it's yours for the taking. And I think
Mhm.
there's something beautiful about that. There's something beautiful about me, coding with somebody in Switzerland who's married and has, I think 2 kids, I'm not sure already. There's something beautiful about coding with Alfonso, who had how many restaurants. He has so much experience under his belt. And I learned from these people, and I feel so um, grateful and lucky to be able to meet these people that, they're just so kind, and I learn from them. And
Mhm.
hopefully they learn a little something from me, or if not, they enjoy my cool backgrounds. But yeah, this community is very beautiful, and I'm really happy to see how it's growing. And yeah, so this is a good word you're putting out.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I'm trying. I wanted to leave, if I could, a little something behind when I eventually get to Capstone. Eventually.
You will. You
Sometime.
will. Hey, maybe we'll do September together.
That would be awesome. The more I think about it, the more at peace I am with it. And I'm like, hey, more time for me to study. It makes studying fun now. I don't feel the pressure. I don't feel stressed about it. So I'm actually like really quickly switching my mental thoughts about it and forcing myself to see the positive side. And the more I think about it, the more natural it becomes and the more excited I get. So yeah, that's an emotional thing that I've learned to, do over time, is to quickly find different perspectives and change my mindset about things. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So cool. Well,
Awesome.
yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much, Carolina, for doing this with me. I hope you guys enjoy learning about her journey before law school. You did so many things, and through law school, and hearing about the Women Who Co-group. I do encourage anyone who's thinking about joining, or not even just the Women Co-group, spot or whatever it is, or
The social network,
yep.
that had something for, I think they had a New Year's Eve party. I had to sleep
Yes.
in, but I wish I went. Yeah, there's so many channels out there. I think there's like a pet lovers channel. I'm not a
I
part of it,
Yeah,
but there is.
yeah, love that
Yeah,
group. Yeah.
and you can start something as well. You can
Yep.
go on general and go, hey guys, I'm interested in galaxies. Let's talk about galaxies. It doesn't matter, but it's just a nice community. Chances are somebody else will want to learn more about galaxies.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was gonna bring up too. Or heck, make your own group. Like that's the kind of environment that it is at launch school. You're free to do something like that, feel empowered to do something like that. So yeah, I encourage you guys to join things like that. Find people to talk to, make friends, learn about their stories, and yeah, just have fun, I guess, at launch school. Like make it your own, and don't let it be something that's scary, or you don't have to go through it alone. Don't ever feel like you have to. So yeah, thank you so much for doing
you're more
this.
than welcome. It was such a pleasure getting to know you, and I hope you all enjoy what we had to say.
Yes, me too. Okay, that's it for this one. See you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.